Okay, now we're going to start on the x-axis. First thing we need to do a little prep work here. We need to get this off off the old Acme screw, and we need the bearings out of here. The bearings have to come out, and they're I won't say press fit, but there's an interference fit on them, so it's going to take a little finagling to get them out of there. I want to make sure that you understand you have to have these nuts on. Not both nuts, but you have to have at least a nut, and probably a washer on here would do too. You don't want all this stuff flying out and spilling out all over the table. And what I'm going to do is, let's see, can I do that? No, I can't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably put this in the vise right here, like this, in a vise. And I'm going to tap on the end of the rod here. And that should allow everything to pop out the front. It should pop out the front here. I don't know if I can, let's see if I can show you this. Let's see if I can get my vise in the frame here. Oop, there you go. A little busy in the background here, but I'm sure you get the idea here. Got my handy dandy hammer. And it's coming out a little bit. Doing this right? Let me see. Yeah, it's coming out. Takes a little persuasion, that's all. Probably should have something, a block of wood or something on here, but I don't ever foresee using this thing again. I don't want to break this either. Probably should close up the jaws here a little bit. We don't have any oh shits, you know. And it's moved about 1/8 of an inch, maybe more. So it's getting there. When we get this thing out of here, we want to pay attention to the way this stuff goes in here, because we're going to reassemble it again. Not on this Acme screw, but on the new one. Let's see if I'm doing this right or not. Might not be pounding on this the right way. Maybe it's this way. I got to pound on it. Sure is. What a dope. Alright, so I got it out. So I want to pound on it this way. I got it turned around in my mind. So now I left this on here, of course, I told you, so that all this stuff doesn't pop out of here. So I'm going to very carefully take this stuff out of here so I know how it went in here, so that I can reassemble it again on a new ball screw over there. And already I'm in trouble here already. I got this one washer here that's pretty tight. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put it down in the order I just took it off. Okay. I'll get back to you once I have all this. Okay, I got it all out of there, and this is the order and the direction things go. I don't know how to describe this, but there's a channel in these bearings. There's a milled channel there, and this bearing, it's a thrust bearing, the shallow portions of the bearing, which are on the rear side, I say they're shallow because they don't protrude as much as the ones on the front, which come out protrude a lot, and they go into the front-facing thrust washer, which has a deeper milled area. So when you sandwich them together like this, they become a thrust bearing. The one that was on the back side, all that stuff, by the way, the thrust bearing was in the front. On the back side, there was nothing more than this washer. It's another thrust bearing. You know what? I'm thinking, because that's machined out there, I'm thinking I didn't take all of the stuff off there. I didn't. Alright. I forgot to take these off. I was wondering why that washer had a machined, milled out area, you know, channel for bearings when there was no bearing, but got to take the bearings out of here, or off there. So let's see, same deal. The rear facing washer has a shallow milled channel, and the bearings that are shallow are on the rear side, and the bearing fronts, which are protruding much more than the rear, go on the front side. And I got to get this thing out of here again. And they make a sandwich again, same as the other one. And that's the two of them. Okay, so I'm going to reuse that again. Got a bunch of grease on my hands now. All this grease off. Now I'm going to tell you something I noticed. Different couple of videos that I watched on the internet to do this job is that, you see this? How loose it is in here? Recall that the original ball screw fit in here, and there are two set screws that hold that ball lock in place. Well, no one ever tells you with this kit, and I've looked at a couple of videos, and I went to the manufacturer's website for the kit, CNC Fusion. Nobody ever tells you to tighten those things back up. And I can't see leaving this thing loose in here like this. Look at this. I mean, I don't know how in the world you could ever get any accuracy out of this thing without tightening them up. So I'm going to give it a shot, but they're a little bit obstructed here. Okay, it's tight. Not tight, but it's snug. Kind of treating them like they are Gibbs screws. Just going to snug them up. Get the other one here. This is where having ball drivers is invaluable. Just bought these at Harbor Freight. Whole set there with 20% coupon, cost like $15. Can't beat it. I got a good set, probably three good sets of bowl drivers like this that are SAE, that are this is Bond House, I think. I forget. Anyway, these. But all I have is SAE, I have no metric. So these things do pretty good, these T-handle, Harbor Freight. And they're bowl drivers. Alright, so I got that locked in, and it's locked in tight. So now what we got to do, let's see, is we got to get the bed back on here. Yes. And the Gibbs. Probably should have greased this up before I started the camera up, but you guys got plenty of time, so. You don't mind me watching me spread grease out, do you? I've always liked white lithium grease for some reason. Wouldn't use it for wheel bearings on a car, but I use it for a good number of things. Other than that. Got some corrosion on the bottom of this thing. Okay, and I got a Gibbs here. I got to do the Gibbs. Sure, it's probably enough grease in here, you know, to work with this. But what the hell? I'm here. All right. Alright, so we're going to put this thing in now. You know what, I might have to probably gonna have to screw this ball out. Screw it out this way. Which way am I going? To slide this back on again, the top, and get it slid in here. Probably gonna have to back this way out. And grease all over my hands. Yeah, it's interesting. Every video I watched, not a single one of them ever told you to lock those screws down. And that goes with the X too. I haven't seen any of them mention the X either. So, woo. Flapping my jaws here. I was getting too close to the end there. It could have been a disaster. Alright, let's see. You want the scale on the outside, you know, with the numbers. Let's see if we can jiggle this thing in. Come on now. Oh boy. Might have to loosen those screws. No, let's see. No, we're good. Okay. We're good. Don't panic yet. Don't panic. Alright, we want to get the Gibbs in. That's the other thing, by the way, I've seen in other videos. Some guys are putting all the hardware on and everything, including the attaching the screw. And the very last thing I see them doing is the Gibbs. That's exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. You should be doing it right now while there's nothing connected to it. Because you don't want... always get these things upside down. You don't want this thing still upside down? What the heck? There it is. You want this thing loose, like it is now, like this. So you can see it wiggling and wobbling, and you can slide it by hand. Once you connect up all the hardware and the motors and everything else, trying to adjust these Gibbs is like, you know, I mean, everything else is holding it tight and in whatever alignment it would be in, you know, with the motor on and everything like that. Not good. You want to do this adjustment while it's loose right now. This is the time we want to do this, not later. I'm going to get the two outside first so that I get the... should go over and get a set of wrenches too. I'm doing this with a pair of pliers. I really should be doing it with a wrench. Let me do that. All right. What we got here? Assuming they're metric. There you go. Set of wrenches I've had for about 40 years. And, the plastic pouch is getting brittle and cracking, and some tools you just keep a lifetime. Alright, so anyway, you see this this table is still rocking here. So apparently I don't have these Gibbs adjusted correctly yet. I didn't even do the two in the middle. I want to get the two outer, and it looks like this one's adjusted okay. It looks like the one that's up front here. This one is not. So we'll get it cinched down. Okay. And we'll just snug up the two in the middle. Take it for a test drive here, and it doesn't move at all. Too tight. There you go. Okay, does it rock? It still rocks a little bit. Okay. Very light touch. Alright, I think we're okay. So we're going to lock it down. Okay. 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 All right. A little tight, but that's where it's supposed to be. Okay. All this gook off my hands, and start putting this stuff back on. And on this side, take these two nuts off. We don't need these two bolts, these original bolts here, cap screws. We don't need them. We got two brand new ones in the package here, the long ones. Leave them in here, right? Longest ones are in the bag, two of them. Now, we're supposed to have the spacer block here. Not sure. Yeah, it's got to go on the top. Let's see, I don't want to put this out of the camera's view, but go like this. And then this is supposed to go over the top like that. And then all that stuff, what's going on here? It's not coming through. Oh, I gotta move the table. I was gonna say there's not enough room here, but there's gotta be enough room there. Like that. And then this will go in here like this. And then you just gotta push the table forward till it all sandwiches together. Okay? And the first thing we're going to do is take the first thrust bearing, the way we took it out, and we're going to put it back in. And that's this. Goes back in here. Okay. Oop. Now you see what I got going on here. There's the bearings, and the other half of it is in there. It's a 3-piece bearing. Alright, and still got to bring this forward. There you go. Okay. And we probably can get these in now. Let's see. Hopefully. Find the hole. My wife used to say that to me all the time. Find the hole, find the hole. Let's see. Not going to tighten them up, but I'm going to get them started. There's one. This one here. I don't know. Where is it? I gotta walk around the other side to see what I'm doing. Oh, there's a hole there somewhere. Can't seem to find that hole there. I think I got it now. Yep. There. Got one in and the other one out. Yeah. I don't quite line up right. Tight. I don't want to strip anything. I'm looking for my alignment tool, my hammer. Where's my hammer? Hello, hammer. See if I can tap this. Well, my camera shut off. Battery saver probably. I don't know how much video I lost, but I'm currently looking at a problem here that I have, or I think I have, where the screw starts out in the center here, but it's, when it gets to this end here, it's off to the right. And that's not good. That's not good. It's not centered in the hole here. And so I'm going to have to get back to you, and I'm probably going to have to see how much video I lost here too. I have no idea. Just happened to look up at the camera and it was off. So I'll get back to you on all of this. Okay, you didn't miss much when I was messing around with this thing. I guess probably this is the last thing you saw me do. And I was going to put the motor mount on the back here when I noticed that the coupler here wasn't centered in the hole. And after mucking around with this thing for a while, I began to realize that there's not a lot you can do about it. Right now, it is centered in the hole. It will be centered in the hole, no problem. But you notice that the table's about centered. As you move the table, I don't know if I can, have my trusty screwdriver here. I'll show you what happens here, I think. As you move the table, not to that extreme, this is, how do I say this? In this direction, you're getting further and further from the ball screw, the ball lock. And so you got a lot of rod there, and nothing can get distorted or bent. But as you, here's the ball lock in here somewhere, as you move it closer to the front bearing assembly here, the rod begins to skew to the right or to the left, depending upon the tolerances here. So right now, if I go to the end of this thing, and that's where I started seeing the problem, I was at the extreme. It's still pretty much centered here, but as you get to the extreme and the ball lock is here, and there's only about that much thread between here and the bearing. If there's any tolerances built up or whatever, any misalignment between the bearing and the ball lock, okay, it's going to skew the rod to the right or to the left, because the rod's way out here. And I'm talking about the Acme screw, is way out here. And what I was seeing was the Acme screw off to the right. So what I did was, I found that just by loosening and tightening the two mounting bolts here on the front, I could get the rod to move back and forth. Sort of a coarse alignment. But there's nothing you can do to actually ever get that out of there. It's just inherent in the design. And as the tolerances build up, the closer you get to the extreme of the table on this side, okay, which would be the plus X, at the extreme of plus X, the ball or the Acme screw is going to skew off to the right a little bit, and that's going to make the motor work harder to turn, okay? Right now it's turning okay, but I'm not at the extreme. I don't know, here's the extreme right here. And it's off to the right a little bit. So that means on the coupling and the motor, okay, it's going to have to work harder to turn because it's not exactly centered. But it's not a big deal. If you look at the amount of skew here, it's really not that much. I'm on the tripod again, so I'm trying to give you a shot. You can see it favors the right side and not the left side. And the coupler, it's sort of flexible here. So the coupler will take care of that. And of course it'll wear the coupler over time because of that misalignment. But truth be told, I mean, how many times are you going to be machining something at the far right of the table, you know, in the X direction over here? You're usually going to be in the center of the table doing whatever you have to do. So it really, you know, I mean, really, I'm not going to worry about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can fuss with it all you want. You probably maybe shim the bolts under here. You do whatever you want. And I just noticed my battery's going dead again, so that's probably why the camera shut off the last time. So I'll quit talking now. But I'll get this block on, and we'll change the battery out in this thing, and we'll continue on. Okay, now that we got that all resolved, we're going to finish up the X-axis. This is the motor mount, and took this suggestion from someone else on another video that probably would be a good idea to drill a hole in the bottom of this, because you can't get at this Lovejoy or the set screw. You can't get at it from the bottom. So the only thing you can do is tighten it up on the motor, put the motor on, on the mount, and well, that's not the way to go. So I got something here now, access to the set screw on the lug joist. So if I want to tighten it up, if it comes loose and I want to tighten it up, I can do it from the bottom. So let's just get this thing finished up. And I think I'm going to have to cut the motor shaft on this. We'll see. I already cut it once on the y-axis. This motor shaft I had to cut to fit, and I'm having a feeling that I'm probably going to have to cut this one too. We shall see. Okay, so we're on there, and we'll have to see. Let me get this lovejoy out of here. Get her out. Come on, don't give me a hard time here. There we go. Alright. My motors have a flat on them, so I want to make sure I pick up the flat. And where's the wrench? And already this thing is hitting the rubber. I can see it. That's how long the shaft is, so it's going to push the rubber out if I go too much farther. See it? It's right at the top. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, I don't know, but it's flush with the outside of the shaft, or the outside of the coupler. And what's this? Wrong wrench. Wrong wrench. 1/8 inch SAE is the only things that are SAE. Alright, so let's see. My intuition tells me that this is not going to seat. But we'll see. If it doesn't, I'll have to cut the motor shaft again and find out how this thing seats in here. Come on now. Let me put the rubber in first. Well, I thought that would be easier, but probably not. So. Like this. Couple it up. Come on, get on there. There it is. And it does not seat. I don't know if you can see it, but there's about 1/8 of an inch between the motor. See it? It's bottomed out. About 1/8 of an inch between the motor and the coupler. So, and the coupler is flat here. So, all right, the rubber's in there now. So what I'm going to do is take about 1/8 of an inch off this motor shaft. Have my trusty Dremel tool, and I'll cut 1/8 of an inch off of it. And over here in the vise. And when I got that cut down, I'll get back to you. Okay, back. I got the shaft cut on the stepper motor, and I'm just going to fit it now and get it in here. Now the wires come out the bottom like I did the other one. Come on now, get in there. There it is. Okay, it sits flat now. Just gotta get the screws in here. And $3mm. Oop. 3mm. Come on, damn it. Christ. A couple in here. Been a long video for the X. About 45 minutes, maybe even more. I had a fancy editor. I'd edit out all this screwing, pun intended, just by fast forwarding, but I don't have one. I just use the YouTube video maker. The price is right. Okay, we're done with the X. That's it, buddy. That's it, baby. We got her done. Next is the Z, which is possibly the hardest. I don't know. We shall find out.